I think for us it's about, taking it one day at a time and continuing to put one foot in front of the other every single day and attack it with that mindset.
Welcome to the Super Bowl Parade edition of the Enough Said program. My name's Dan Barreiro, joined as always by Justin Gaard and Lori Fisher to get the whole process started. And I feel like we're starting once again with the Vikings, but I think we kind of should.
Hey, that was your choice.
That was my choice.
Your
choice
charge.
is made for
I
us.
think it was the right choice, too, I have to say.
I can't believe you're not wearing purple. You of all people. I cannot believe.
It is new, though. It is new.
I've noticed. Tags are still on it looks like, in
I
case it
took
doesn't
them off,
work out.
I swear. But, maybe we can start, planning the parade because the Vikings head into week 3 undefeated after beating the 49ers by 6 last Sunday. First time since 2016 going into game 3 undefeated. A great touchdown by Justin Jefferson, a play worked on at training camp with, you heard from quarterback Sam Darnold. Darnold says he continues to work on his arm strength, deep ball, and keeping his eye on the target at all times. They play the Texans at home this weekend, Dan.
Well, it is interesting you bring up the 2-0 start and how unusual it is for this team, because it is true that we've had seasons in which going into a season, we all thought this was a pretty good team to potentially a very good team, and they would stutter and meander and just underperform their way through the first few weeks and find themselves behind the 8 ball.
As recently as last year.
That's right. And 2-0 doesn't guarantee you're going to be in the postseason at all. I'm going to, put the brakes on a little bit on that. But it does help you if you can get off on the right foot. And I would say the most encouraging part about the start, and for me the most surprising, because I sure as heck thought they were going to be no better than 1-1 and that they might even be 0-2, is that neither victory, even the one against the 49ers, a real pedigreed team, felt fluky.
Right.
They ended up making the game closer than it had to probably be with that late fumble by Aaron Jones in the second half. But they looked just as authoritative, I thought, at home against the Niners as they did against a pitiful Giants team. And that, to me, is the most encouraging part. I didn't come away going, there's a couple tip balls, a couple of weird plays. The Niners gave the game away. They won fair and square both games, and early the quarterback is looking very creditable.
If Aaron Jones doesn't fumble on the one, they probably blow out the San Francisco 49ers. That play allowed them to get back in the game, but then Sam Darnold made the plays. And I was at the Lynx game on Thursday night, and I was talking to a long-suffering Bears fan, which you can appreciate, and they're already out on Caleb Williams.
Yes.
And this woman's case was, name me a good USC quarterback. And I shot right back at her, Sam Darnold, ma'am. Sam Darnold. He's playing great. KOC's obviously feeling it, but to me, we talked all offseason about the quarterback with good reason. We all wondered about J.J. McCarthy when he was going to play. To me, we also did wonder, though, Dan, how's the defense going to look with Brian Flores? We knew it kind of fell off a little bit towards the end of last year. Now he's got hand-picked guys that they went out and got in free agency. Your guy Gink, Van Ginkel, my guy Cash, Blake Cashman, Jonathan Grenard playing against his former team this weekend, as is Cash. And you can see that Flores likes all of these new pieces, and so far through 2 weeks knows what to do with it. That's why it hasn't felt fluky, and that's why it does feel, whatever you think of Sam Darnold and the offense, and Jordan Addison's not going to play this weekend. It doesn't sound like Dallas Turner's going to play. The defense feels very sustainable with what they're doing right now. 3
very good third down conversions through the air after the fumble and after the Niners made it a one-score game.
30 seconds.
That's the kind of drive that, frankly, even with number 8, Kirk Cousins, we didn't always see. It was at that point, they're going to give the ball right back, and they didn't, which was impressive. You mentioned the linebackers, it looks like, are the key to what this defense is putting together at this point. And, they're playing Danielle this week. Danielle Hunter is a member of the Houston Texans. Danielle Hunter is probably superior to anybody we have in this defense, but let's be clear. He was not a good fit for what the Vikings wanted to run.
Right.
Which bugged me. To me, it's like he should have adjusted the defense more to what he does. But he was not a guy who liked standing up or getting back in coverage. They have active linebackers now who more readily fit the system that I think Flores wants to run. They're active. They're making plays all over the place, and the early signs, it's going to be another test this week.
Enough said.
A good one, but the early signs are definitely encouraging.
Yeah, nobody thinks of the Houston Texans as a big threat, but they are kind of a sleeper AFC Super Bowl team, and their defense is really, really good. So this is much more than we could ever hoped for a Week 3 game. Like, this is a legitimate test. If you win this game, who knows how big we might be thinking.
Enough said. It's playoff time for the Lynx. The team wrapped up their regular season on Thursday night, but the big excitement was Tuesday when they clinched the number 2 seed in the playoffs. That means they'll be playing the 7th seed Phoenix Mercury in the first round, a team they've beat 3 times this season and lost once to. The Lynx have home court advantage at the Target Center at 5 o'clock this Sunday. It's a best-of-3 series, Justin.
Well, and I think the last regular season game is a good kind of test case for just how far the Lynx have come here. They played the LA Sparks. They rested pretty much everybody. Collier didn't play. You go back to the dynasty years, Dan, they were always seemingly going up against the LA team, right? I think they met in the finals 3 straight years, definitely 2. LA won 8 games this season because Candace Parker doesn't play there anymore. Their star players don't play there anymore. They got out of their dynasty era and haven't found a way back. The Lynx, on the other hand, as Lori mentioned, have the 2 seed locked up. They won the in-season tournament. They played great essentially all year, and it's a recipe of great free agent acquisitions, great trades, and a great draft pick, 6th overall in Nafisa Collier, who is an MVP caliber player. She didn't win it. She's not going to win it, but she played at that level, and she's kind of running the whole thing right here. I thought just sitting there at Target Center on Thursday, it struck me that LA was the opponent and 2 teams that have gone in completely different directions. Collier didn't play last year. We talked about that. She had a kid. She missed the summer. That's a big omission, you know, when they were kind of muddling through it. They needed a bounce-back season, and they've gotten it in spades. They are absolutely a title contender.
It's you know, it's not easy to – if you're a coach, you want world-class talent, which when the Lynx were winning titles, Cheryl Reeve had, okay?
There's 5 of them hanging in the rafters right now.
Exactly.
5 banners.
There's still a challenge, though, to putting that together. But the bigger challenge is what has happened since, which is we ain't going to have 4 Hall of Famers. We're not going to have, you know, world-class talent. Maybe we got one on the way in Collier, but can I sort of bring along and nurture an ensemble that's a very good three-point shooting team, I think among the best in the league, if not the best.
And there's Bridget Carlton right there.
Making a big one. That's exactly it. Can I bring it along and sort of build it a different way? And that's what's got to be pleasing to Reeve. Now, the payoff's got to be postseason, like with any, you know, in basketball, NBA, WNBA. That's what we think about, and what matters is banners. But they've certainly put themselves in position in the number 2 spot that they have to be taken seriously. And there is really no reason, I don't think, that they cannot make a legitimate run for it this year. And so to an extent, you could say this might have been Cheryl, the best coaching job Cheryl Reeve has done.
Well, and I'd say general managing, too, because this wasn't built on getting lucky and winning the lottery when Maya Moore was available, right? When you already had Simone Augustus, a former number 1 pick, and you just made the trade for Lindsay Whalen, which was a no-brainer at the time for a bunch of different reasons. It wasn't even getting lucky to acquire a player like Sylvia Fowles, who only wanted to play for you and forced her way to Minnesota in a trade, another Hall of Famer whose banner is up in Target Center right now. They had to do this one differently. It didn't really involve luck. I mean, Nafisa Collier was drafted 6th overall. That's a hell of a find. Even though there's only 12 teams, to have someone of her caliber be picked at that spot, it wasn't as easy as, oh, we won the lottery the year that Caitlin Clark came out or Maya Moore came out or whoever. They had to do it a different way.
Hey, by the way, Caitlin Clark is in I was going to say the
Fox 9 has learned.
Fox 9 has learned. Are they on the 6th spot? I don't remember what position they're in.
Yes.
But remember that quote from Taurasi very early? Reality is coming. As in, Caitlin Clark isn't going to know what hit her. Last night, was it last night or the night before? All-time WNBA attendance record set in Washington.
Yeah.
Because Caitlin Clark was there. She has been a remarkable force already in this league. She, as ESPN guy points out, is the reality.
And there's still tickets available for the Target Center this Sunday. I think around $60, and I think the most expensive were a couple hundred maybe.
Get in.
I don't know. Not as many expensive ones left. I can tell you that as of right now. They're certainly not making it easy on themselves. We're talking about the Twins struggling to hold on to that wild card spot. Thursday night, they got walked off by Cleveland, who clinched a playoff spot with their win. The Twins tied for the final playoff spot with time running out. They head to Boston for a weekend series against the Red Sox, Dan.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to root for this team at this point, and it's probably unfair to the players.
Right.
Because some of this isn't on them. Some of it is, some of it's performance, but a lot of it isn't. This is a team that's trying to hang on with 3 rookies in their rotation. Why? Because they were too cheap to, if not keep Sonny Gray, a big-time starter last year, to attempt to replace him. Their bullpen is overdone. It's overcooked. It's out of gas at the back end. Why? Because it's not deep enough. Why? Because at the trade deadline, this team made one deal. That player, I don't even think he exists in Major League Baseball anymore. He was a complete disaster. So they have, from the start, we talked about it on this show, the right sizing the payroll declaration. We're going to spend $30 to $35 million less than a year after we finally break through. They're getting everything they deserve at this point. And if, in fact, they do hold on to the spot, it's to credit to the players. It's most assuredly not a credit to management or, most importantly, ownership.
Imagine at any point this season, beginning of the season, middle of the season, even a month ago, saying we're going to have to schedule watch the Detroit Tigers, a team that really isn't even trying to win all that much this season. They're in a completely different
dumped
phase.
At the trade deadline.
They did, but that's the situation the Twins find themselves in. And we've talked about the two tracks all season long, the organization and the team. You do have to feel bad at points for the players and for the manager. And I would even say the general managing staff of Falvey, of Derek Falvey and Thad Levine. And we've talked on this show for years about all the things the Twins should do and have very little hope that they will. This feels like another one of those moments. This should be a wake-up call to the ownership that you can't continue to do things this way and just expect that you're going to win the division or sneak into the playoffs. They wouldn't even be close, as we mentioned on the radio, if the Chicago White Sox weren't in this division, one of the worst teams in the history of baseball. This should be an organizational wake-up call that we have to do things a little bit different than the Calvin Griffith era or the original Pohlad era, when making money actually did really matter because it was our business. This is a novelty purchase. It's a vanity purchase. You need to treat it as such and actually try to invest in it and win.
Welcome back to Enough Said. Another assassination attempt on former President Trump. This time, a man is under arrest accused of having an AK-47 style rifle at a Florida golf course just about 500 yards away from Trump. And get this, cell phone records show he had been hiding in the woods at the golf course for 12 hours. This happened just 2 months after Trump survived being shot at a rally in Pennsylvania in July. Dan?
Well, I think, and I don't know if this change has already been made. I believe perhaps it has. We've, I think, reached a point where clearly whatever the rules that have tended to govern how much security an individual gets if they're not the president of the United States but running, we've reached a point where he needs the same amount of security, if it's at all practical, as the sitting president of the United States.
Yep.
Right? I mean, at this point, I don't know how you can make any other conclusion than when you have a second attempt play out very differently, at least in this case. It looked like the Secret Service was right on top of the situation.
Yep.
You almost have to, do you not? You have to go to a completely different, all bets are off, all rules are off, and quite frankly, I would say no expenses should be spared at this point.
Well, and I think Lori can correct us, but I'm pretty sure they voted on that this morning. I know it was going to be on the table.
Right.
President Biden talked about it earlier this week that Congress should do something, and you're absolutely right. And you just did it there, and I had the same thought. It's sick to have to compare assassination attempts, right, on a president when especially any time, but especially the proximity when you're talking about 2 months ago. 2 months ago was a complete Secret Service fail. I think we can all agree on that. Even former President Trump talking about it. Thank God they were on top of it this time around, right? The Secret Service clearly did their job, but your point is the apt one and the correct one, that whatever rules are typically governed by a former president or a presidential candidate need not apply in this case. I think they've done the right thing and giving him the support and the staffing and the man and woman power that they need, because there's 50-some days left to the election, and it doesn't seem like this stuff is slowing down, as sick as that is.
No, and again, the debate that's broke out afterwards is the one that always does. The rhetoric is the criticism is responsible for creating a climate that makes it easier for an individual to do what he does. What we're finding out about most of these individuals is that politically, often they're all over the map.
Right.
They tend to be sick. And I don't know that we want to believe, well, that's why he went out and did it. We don't know in this case. But I will say it's tricky for me, because the notion that you're not allowed to suggest a belief that on the basis of the positions that Trump has taken regarding the last election, that you don't think he's dangerous, I don't think you have to apologize for saying that is very dangerous thinking and concerning. And so the folks who are trying to shut everybody up, there are limits, I think, to how far you can go with that, because people have a right to whatever opinion they have.
Right.
Now, what they do with it, obviously, is a completely different deal, and none of us are in any way, shape, or form endorsing that. but you're not going to be able to tell people that, well, you're no longer allowed to evaluate what Trump has said and the positions he's taken on some pretty important
And that bill
stuff.
did pass in the House.
It did.
405-0, by the way.
And we pick and choose the rhetoric, by the way, that we think is inflammatory. So
100%.
it's also politicizing that part of it on the back end.
Next up, a wild story. Dozens of people killed, hundreds injured in pager and walkie-talkie explosions in Lebanon. All the devices bought by Hezbollah. About 5 months ago, Hezbollah has vowed to retaliate against Israel, believing that Israel's spy agency, Mossad, is responsible. The U.S. has denied any involvements in the blast, but just wild how it's all come together, how it was orchestrated, Dan.
Well, you almost feel like this is coming right out of a movie or a book, right? And we were reminded by our Vince Flynn fans, Mitch Rapp fans, Vince Flynn, the late great author, one of us from St. Paul, in a book called Executive Power a number of years ago. Speaking of Mossad agent, he tells the story. One of his characters tells the story of a Mossad agent assassinating a member of Hamas by placing a C4 charge in what? A cell phone, and detonating after placing the call. The concern here is that's fiction. This is real life. And so what impact is this going to have on everybody's safety? The concern among people that I respect in the security when it comes to counter-terror issues and geopolitical issues is that in the end, is this run the risk of, as effective as it clearly was, escalating things? Again, we're all waiting for the one thing, because it's such a powder keg, that's going to take this to the next level, and we're going to lose control of it. And there is some concern about that aspect of it. This isn't a book. This isn't a movie. This is real life. So the ramifications of where this is going, I think, is still what concerns a lot of folks.
Well, and being able to intercept what is supposed to be a low-tech technology that they were using, right? Because they already figured out they're on our cell phones. Take your cell phones, throw them away, put them in an iron chest, I think is what one leader said, and that you're able to intercept these pagers, infiltrate them from who knows, right? Supply chains, you've got Taiwan, you've got all these other countries that are now allegedly involved. They're all trying to deny involvement here. The war movie, spy movie bit is completely correct. That's exactly what I thought, and it felt like that. And just how they were so apparently easily able to do it, that's what should scare everybody. Not on just what you said, the ramifications of what it can, but that people can still do this type of stuff.
Dan.
The other thing real quick is, as I understand it, the Israelis are they basically set up many years ago, a fake pager company. Thinking that eventually they're going to want to switch from cell to this more low-tech stuff because of a belief, right, that this is a safer way to go. And they basically wait for then the customer to come to them. And the customers eventually did come to them. And this is why they were effectively able to pull the whole thing off. It's the layers to this thing are unbelievable.
Next up, they were forced to do something, but in an effort to keep kids safe, Instagram made some changes, including a new teen account. Restrictions include being set to private mode, limiting sensitive content, who can send messages, and notification times, like overnight. They can be changed back, though, with parent approval. Could these changes do anything to help the mental health of kids? Something that we are all concerned about, obviously, Dan.
Well, Guardsy, you're more Facebook guy than I am, actually.
Yeah, but you both have teens, and I don't yet. It's almost happening, so I want your opinion, too, but go ahead.
In theory, these seem like reasonable steps that might indeed help, but I still have maybe part of my problem is I get so intimidated by the entire technology and by the entire process that I almost feel like anything we do is a bit of a losing battle. I'll take a shot at it. I think that it certainly, in theory, sounds like it's going to work. But whether it's actually going to make a big difference, I honestly, if I'm telling you the truth, I just don't know.
Yeah, when Lori mentioned it, they were forced to make some changes, and that's some of the skepticism that a lot of people have right now with Meta, the parent company, Facebook, that owns Instagram, that you never do anything until you're about to be forced to, and then you kind of limp in with some type of changes. I'm all for anything because I think the totality of it is so difficult, because we've been dealing with parental controls on everything from on our CDs back in the day. Lori and I, if you had an explicit lyric CD, man, you felt like you were an outlaw, right? If you could sneak that by your parents somehow. Now it's the same thing with social media. Even with televisions, you can block out channels. You can do YouTube for kids. I know none of it is going to be the panacea, as we always say on the radio, but I'm for any type of limit that we can try to give us our best chance at limiting this, because we're just scratching the surface, I think, on what social media does to all of us, not just kids, right? This is a relatively new phenomenon going back 10, 15 years. We know how damaging it can be for adults let alone kids. So I'm all for giving any of it a shot. Is it enough? I don't know.
Lori,
Time will
what do you think, Lori?
Hey, real quick, Chris. My main thing is just how long they are on it.
Right.
So, and I think parents forget that they can limit that.
Yeah,
You can.
that's true.
Right?
That's a good
you
point.
can set limits
Right.
on how long they're on Snapchat and Instagram. And although I was just telling Justin, like,
What happens when the kid asks for more time
well,
to feed the
that's
meter?
the thing. We just gave Snapchat to our youngest, and because we told him once he was a teenager he could have it, and now he keeps asking for more time and more time. But at least you can limit it that way. I think content. I mean, with being able to go to YouTube, they can pretty much see whatever they want. I mean, honestly, like, so when you talk about limiting sensitive information on Instagram, the stuff on YouTube is.
So with the kids, what's the most popular form right now of social media? Would you? Because you would bet, Lori.
I don't know. I have
this
two
stuff.
boys.
You're hitting out with it, and wow.
I don't know. I feel like TikTok's big, but I'm not on
TikTok
TikTok.
is
But I
still
think
big, yeah.
Instagram's popular with girls, and I think Snapchat's the way that everyone communicates. There's no texting. It's all Snapchat.
I already dated myself by bringing up Facebook. This isn't even about.
Yes.
This
Yeah,
isn't even
just us
about
oldies
Facebook.
have
It's a good
it.
show in
Okay, well, we
2012.
got to wrap up.
Does anybody still get subscribe to AOL? Is that,
MySpace?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Just,
MySpace
like
parental controls.
do you still have an AOL address?
It might be. I probably
Live
do
or
and don't
Hotmail
even know
account? It's a really fun Friday. I'm having a really good day. Are you guys?
it. Not really.
No, not particularly.
That's
Yeah.
Okay, we got to see how we can
I'm glad
change
it's going
that
well
up.
Is
for
this
you,
one of
though.
those phony TV?
Not at
cheery,
all.
Bright,
Not at
everything's-
all.
Okay.
Everything's clicking today.
Okay. All
The
right.
Vikings, hopefully it'll click for the
Happy
Vikings
for you.
too. They're undefeated going into game 3 for the first time since 2016. They're playing the Texans at noon here at home at US Bank Stadium. The team gelling, saying they're taking it game by game. You love that. Game by game, step by step, Dan.
Well, nothing does the sports heart better, though, than a nice start to a season, right? Especially one in which there were so many legitimate open questions. Not all of them have yet been answered because we've seen this before, not just here but other places. You don't win anything by winning your first 2 games, but it's a very good start and a good opponent again, but they get them at home. And so I think we'll probably get some more questions answered. If you're still wondering whether this is real, if they take care of business against Houston again, you say 3-0
Yeah.
and 2
Justin?
good teams. That's not bad.
The Houston team that might be the AFC
Yeah.
representative for the Super Bowl, certainly a contender.
They got a lot
right?
of talent on that team.
And when you looked at the schedule, we've only seen them 5 times in their history, right? They're a newer team, so we're so unfamiliar with them. You kind of forget that they were good a year ago. They have a lot of talent. They have a great defense. Stephon Diggs is coming back. Danielle Hunter is coming back. We've got a couple of former Texans. This is everything you want in a Week 3 matchup. This is pretty cool.
And it's supposed to be a beautiful weekend, although I did hear that US Bank Stadium was very hot last Sunday.
Really?
That was on
very
purpose.
stuffy.
Sounds like that was on purpose.
Oh.
That was part of the strategy.
Okay, well, we'll get Paul Bloom on that.
We're thinking ahead.
49ers wilted.
You
Okay.
can check out Enough Said twice tonight, 7:30 on Fox 9 Plus, and then at 11:05 right after college football and Fox 9 News.
Can't wait.